but I think we have a device here that should pick up everything we said. I want to welcome everybody and thank you for coming. We'll just start with quick introductions of the city council here. I'm Bialostosky, the mayor.
Harold Knight, City Councilor.
Barry Baumgartner, Council President.
Leo Groner, City Councilor.
Evan Bonington, City Councilor.
Thank you, everybody. So, yes, we scheduled this meeting because we've been hearing from a lot of you, from the public about issues surrounding small schools and potential closures and the process that's going on. And we wanted to provide a space to hear from our Western community. Obviously, we're not making the decisions about whether schools will close and that sort of thing, but there is a city nexus because, you know, schools are in our neighborhoods, people have families, kids at school, et cetera. So the main purpose of the meeting today is just for us to hear from folks, hear your comments and thoughts, and then we will plan to document what we hear in the form of a letter and then send it over to the friends at the school district, just with kind of to elevate community voices and elevate community concerns that you have or any thoughts. And I also recognize we've received some emails. You know, there's a variety of perspectives. So we welcome all perspectives on the issue. Just want to make sure that's clear as well, in case some folks are here with differing opinions about what should happen and what's happening. So anyway, without further ado, would any counselor like to make any opening comments, or we can just start with kind of public testimony? And we'll try to keep it around 3 to 5 minutes if you can. And then
Timing.
we don't have a timer with this necessarily. So
Just want to make room for all the voices to be heard.
anybody can get started. I guess if you have folks come to the front of the room and speak or just make sure you state your name and city of residence for our records. So because we will take minutes. This is a public meeting. So
And it's being streamed, is that right?
yes, we're live streaming and we also have the option for virtual testimony. So if you're online and want to give a comment, you can just raise your hand and we'll listen to those as well. And so without further ado, anybody can start off. We don't have a question per se to answer, just kind of wanted to hear what you'd like the city to know and potentially share.
You just jump in?
Go ahead, raise your hand. Go ahead and state your name and city residence, and you have up to between 3 and 5 minutes if you need.
Okay. Should I stand or sit?
We can hear you better as you stand.
Thank you for having us this evening. My name is Trisha Carrasco, and I am a Western resident, and I have children in the school district, but not at any of the schools in the topic. I have a few concerns. One concern is that the school we could be potentially placing too much weight in this flow analytics report. It's a tricky time to predict for trends in population. The last 5 years have been extremely odd, and this makes predictions really difficult. So before the board takes any action, we need more time to better predict trends and a population forecast. These schools are anchors for their communities, and to remove any one of them should be done once there is a boundary modification analysis. My concern is a boundary modification analysis has not been done. If it has, please correct me if I'm wrong. My other concern is the remaining primary school campuses do not have capacity to absorb the displaced students if they should consolidate and close schools. Another concern is the district didn't conduct community-wide feedback, only targeted school community feedback. This has limited engagement information. This has limited engagement. It has limited information and has left much of Westland uninformed or confused. And it will result in an incomplete report to the school court because they've only focused on 3 primary schools, Cedar Oak, Fulton, and Stafford. And so the rest of the school district and community could potentially be confused, like, oh, I'm not impacted. It's only focusing on these schools instead of framing it like, well, we have like a district-wide issue. So let's solve this as a district. But instead, it's like, well, we have individual issues. but that doesn't seem to be the case. Another concern is this has been framed as the district does not, I'm sorry, the district has issues with small schools. Well, we do not have issues with small schools. Sorry, my notes are messy. Our district is built around small schools. We have a history of supporting small schools. We have just built a new primary school that will have a small school model. And we have just built a brand new high school that is based on small school model. Because we have, the school district has heard requests for small schools. So clearly, we do not have issues with small schools. And if it is a small school task force, all the small schools should be included in this conversation and not just 3 targeted schools. If it's another matter, a matter of upgrades due to the fact that these 3 schools are older schools, then we should be having a discussion about what we want to see repaired, but not eliminating these schools and their connected communities. They're high performing, they're supported, they're in demand, they're stable institutions. Boards should not act until they have completed a boundary modification analysis and also a third-party budget assessment and conducted community-wide notification and outreach. Finally, I question the board's community engagement strategy. I feel like it has been a narrow approach by targeting 3 particular schools. Has the business community been invited to participate? Have residents been invited to participate? Have other school communities been invited to participate? By drawing attention to 3 primary schools, it puts a focus on a portion of these primary, older, not on the hill school campuses, instead of asking broad questions to the community at large. So this created incomplete feedback. Didn't engage everyone. How did the district communicate events and issues or websites, and was any kind of notification also completed in Spanish? I don't think it has been. I haven't seen any flyers. And have impacts been studied on real estate, business impacts, the impact on local economy, our traffic patterns should schools change, and our tax base should the community lose trust and the decision-making of the school board. Thank you for having me today.
I guess I'll follow that. I'll just start over here.
Thank you. State your name, city residence, and 5 minutes.
I'm a resident and my name is Lydia Salinas. And let's see, Bolton was a middle school once upon a time and my son was there. And then it became a primary school and all my grandkids went there. So I have one last one at the high school. But my concern right now, or my question, is both for the school district and the city. Are you planning to continue the idea of the land that the school has that the city wanted for a park? Are you going to continue going back and forth on that one? Because I feel like if we settle that issue, the land belongs to the school district. If the school district plans to sell it, that will bring in some money that will surely help with the budget shortfall that they have and that they talked about it last week. On the other hand, building is one of the things that the city has been encouraging because of whatever reasons, and there are several. And so if new housing goes in there, it will help the school district because I attended the last meeting last week and I was surprised as to how young families are moving into this area. And of course, young families bring the children, and that's what we need to keep the small schools going. They will also bring in the income that the city needs from taxes and anything that you guys charge for building a house and all that. So the way I see it now is like we're wasting my money that I pay in taxes, both to the school district and to the city. And having the two groups go back and forth as to, I want to buy that land, no, we don't want to sell it for that price. And this kinds of arguing that I think it should benefit both parties at this point, especially when we're both district and the city needs each other to support each other. So I would like you guys to think about it, because I'm not sure if it's true, but I heard that the city was going to appeal the decision or something. And I'm not sure if it's necessary. It's their land, and if they want to sell it, more, it'll be beneficial to both. That's the way I see it. And actually, to me too, and the rest of you who pay taxes to both entities. And they're using this money to argue with each other, and it's not gonna get us anywhere. The other way, I think it'll bring us some benefits on both sides. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up question about that? Is that permitted?
Um, go ahead.
I was curious if the district sells the land, does that money just go into a land fund, so you can't use that for the general fund, like for helping the small?
It's my understanding, yes.
That's our understanding, obviously not our process. And it's difficult for us to comment on that, but I will say we do want to reach a positive resolution and to a good point with that issue. So, thank you, and good comments on the topic. Sure. Happy to,
I can go next, I just didn't time myself, I'm sorry, I didn't time it.
go ahead.
So let me
State-
know when they-
State your name and city residence for our,
I'm Wendy Gorski and I'm in Westland. I have a kid at Bolton. What Bolton, Cedar Oak, Willamette, and Sunset schools offer Westland is a heritage of neighborhoods. Each neighborhood was designed with a central school to serve that neighborhood's children. Trillium was added as the urban growth boundary expanded and homes filled in farms, but it is still seen as a newer neighborhood school. That is 5 schools for 5 neighborhoods, each with their own history. Erasing almost half of our neighborhood schools in one fell swoop will change the face and demographics of West Lynn because it will change the essential centrality of our neighborhoods, Bolton and Robinwood. On our street, Buck, we have families who have moved in for various reasons, but the one consistent reason is for Bolton School a few blocks away. We have folks that moved from Lako because they didn't have a walkable neighborhood school. Many that moved in for the small school size and its high academic performance. One for the disability inclusion factor, one that moved her family back so her daughters could attend the same school, she was a middle schooler, that she did, one that is moving out because they graduated their last kid and quote, live in West Lynn for the schools. Throughout this process, I have heard parents from Cedar Oak and Stafford with the same repetitive stories. In fact, I wish the district had completed a survey on how many parents ended up in West Lynn predominantly for the neighborhood schools, not just the schools in general. Bolton Primary is the face of West Lynn. With its proximity to I-205 and the absurd amount of traffic that passes it daily, it tells commuters West Lynn is not just a pass-through town. And while we have shops and stores along 43 from Robinwood to Bolton, Bolton Primary tells everyone, yes, we live here too, and our children walk to school here. This is a community. While Cedar Oak is not as visible to commuters, the school also anchors the other end of West Lynn and Robinwood. To lose these schools, the only 2 that exist between 43 and the Willamette River, is to change a neighborhood from one in which people interact because their children live and play next to each other into neighborhoods that people leave every morning and come back to every evening. Decentralizing a school from its neighborhood decreases neighborly relationships. Children who attend schools outside their neighborhood have a greater chance of building friendships outside those neighborhoods. Instead of learning the resilience and independence of walking to their friends' houses, they are forced to beg parents for drives to play dates. Parents out driving their kids around are not home, planning block parties, stacking fireworks for the 4th, pre-eating Halloween candy, but borrowing a cup of sugar or a cube of butter, walking the dog before dinner, or knocking on a neighbor's door for help. I know, this sounds like the 50s or the 80s, but Buck Street is that kind of a time warp. And the house for sale there now, you can follow me home, I'll show this to you. If you want to join the club. In the summer, the kids have all their old school friends within a few streets of each other because they all went to Bolton. And they play great games in the park. in the evening. I was gonna say night, but I don't know if there's a curfew, so I just, this is say evening. The high schoolers drive each other to school. The kindergartners tear between each other's homes all afternoon, hitting up some of us in between. Middle schoolers walk with each other to sell fundraisers while we all buy one more loaf of frozen bread or a fifth poinsettia. What if you're not a parent of a child in one of these primary schools? Why would you care? What will a neighborhood that has shuttered its school look like? We've requested a feasibility study from the district so that we could understand the impacts to the community, but have yet to receive one, and with the tight deadline quickly approaching, doubt we will. So we hypothesize the kid and parents walking traffic will slow. Rather than a spider web of children coming to one central location, there will be decentralized stuff. Instead, traffic will increase on 43 as the amount of people and buses exiting and entering the neighborhood at specific times increase. If the school property is sold, businesses and housing will fill it in, removing that community space. If it is not sold, it will languish, compiling maintenance fees. Studies show that housing prices drop when a neighborhood school closes, and that the demographic of neighborhoods change. No longer are young families moving in as rapidly, and the multi-generational makeup of the neighborhoods change. Why would you care what happens in a neighborhood that isn't yours? Why should a Hidden Springs resident care what happens in Bolton? Why would a Sunset grandparent care if Cedar Oak closes? The kids in these neighborhoods still need somewhere to go. Traffic in those school areas will increase in and out, and not just on the ends of school hours, but all afternoon and evening, as well as kids are brought into these spaces. Most of all, we should care because we are West Lynn, and we need to be able to decide together what that means. Are we a group of tight-knit neighborhoods that come together for community events? Or are we just another suburb in which people come to sleep?
Although,
Like, welcome, thank you.
I have some paperwork for you guys. If I can possibly give that to you guys to kind of look over later on. Okay.
Just state your name and city residence and I've got 5 minutes.
My name is Christy Lawns and I'm in West Lynn in the Bolton neighborhood. And I want to thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. West Lynn is home to some of the top performing schools in Oregon, and Bolton Primary School, for example, ranks number 10 in the state out of thousands of primary schools. Cedar Oak and Stafford are consistently recognized for their excellence, and these schools are integral to the fabric of our neighborhoods and a cornerstone of what makes West Lynn a desirable community. School closures don't just impact students, they destabilize entire neighborhoods. Research shows that closures lead to decreased property values, loss of community identity, and reduced local economic activity. Families often move away, weakening enrollment further and creating a cycle of disinvestment. Those who stay are forced to contend with increased traffic on Highway 43 as they drive or bus their children to schools further away. This trend is unsustainable and it's avoidable. While the city of West Lynn doesn't have direct authority over the school district, you can partner with us on a solution for transitioning our schools into full-service community schools. So what is a full-service community school? It's a proven model that goes beyond academics. These schools serve as hubs for their neighborhoods, integrating education, health and wellness, social services, and family engagement under one roof. For students, full-service community schools provide high-quality education along with access to mental health resources, after-school programs, and nutritional support. For families, they offer wraparound services such as parenting workshops, job training, healthcare access, and community building events. For the neighborhood, they create stronger connections, increase property values, and foster a resilient community where schools are essential to daily life, not just places of learning. This approach has been implemented successfully in communities across the country and is leading to improved student outcomes, healthier families, thriving neighborhoods, and full-service community schools transform schools into vibrant community centers that meet the needs of everyone, not just students. And it's still a public school. It's not a charter or anything else. Bolton and Cedar Oak and Stafford are already perfectly situated for this transition. They are embedded in their neighborhoods with deep community ties. The infrastructure and support are already there. So what's missing is a partnership to make this vision a reality. The Bolton neighborhood their association has already overwhelmingly supported this idea. They voted last night that the Bolton Neighborhood Association fully supports maintaining and improving the 3 high-performing schools, Bolton Primary School, Cedar Oak, and Stafford. They are critical community resources, and consideration should be given to their becoming full-service community schools to fill unmet community needs. So now I ask the city of Westland to join us by publicly supporting the full-service community schools model and advocating for it with the district. You can help protect Westland schools and neighborhoods from the harms of closures. Investing in full-service community schools isn't just about education, it's about the future of Westland. It's about preserving what makes our community strong and setting an example for other cities. I urge you, the city council, to stand with its residents and protect its schools and partner with us in building a stronger, more connected community. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for the ideas. And I want to learn more about that. I'm guessing this packet has the information about community schools. That's a good idea. Thank you. Anybody like to go next? Thank you. Go ahead, welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for holding this. My name's Kate Gales and I'm West Lynn and I have a child at Cedar Oak. And incidentally, we moved from Arizona where open school choice is really common there with charter schools. And we came here. We had our pick of schools there. We attended Montessori, we attended other but it's small nature-based school setting, and Westland schools are very competitive with what we had in Arizona. All right, so I want to say that I'm deeply concerned that it seems like the district is treating our schools like a business more than a community of learners, such as mentioned in our district mission. How do we create learning communities for the greatest thinkers and most thoughtful people for the world? The Coalition of Essential Schools says, if the consistent findings of over 100 research studies hold true, small size alone makes an enormous difference in performance among our students. Along every measure of student attitudes, attendance and graduation rates, extracurricular participation, attachment to school, disciplinary incidents, and more, students in small schools do better. And their academic achievement goes up, whether one looks at test scores, grades, or critical thinking skills. The Gates Foundation says, in small schools, students get rigorous, engaging classes, the opportunity to develop close relationships with their teachers and other adults. Dozens of studies have shown that smaller schools have fewer absences, more engagement, personal meaning, less bullying, higher test scores, and in high school, a higher graduation rate and college attendance than their counterparts in larger high schools. Many Oregon education leaders and organizations such as the Oregon Department of Education, Oregon School Boards Association, and Oregon Education Association, among others, support and endorse the Oregon Small Schools Initiative. A 2022 National Institute for Health study analyzed the top key elements for a positive learning environment. Number one, personal development is born from engagement with learning. This is reflected in a student's desire and ability to participate in their learning as opposed to a passive learning approach, as we see with larger schools and larger class sizes. Number two, relationships. Students report higher satisfaction and greater ability to succeed when faculty engaged with respect with their students, faculty who were approachable and who listened. Students felt safe and supported when they felt their relationship with their faculty were egalitarian. Number three, institutional setting. Schools in which students and teachers are able to get to know one another more personally. Students feel they are known as individuals and not just numbers. Institutions with a lower student body promotes greater feelings of connectedness, more personalized attention, and greater sense of belonging. Connectedness from being seen, heard, and mattering to others, being noticed and cared about, ability to be guided, and healthy limits set because you are being noticed, enhances learning. Small, and I would argue that they're quote unquote normal size schools, such as these three, Bolton, Cedar Oak, and Stafford, excel in these qualities. According to the US News and World Report 2024, Bolton is number 26 elementary school in the United States at 222 students. I frankly resent that the board is looking at smaller schools as disposable throwaways and frankly exploiting the top level performance to up the national and state rankings, only to throw them away like a business transaction. What elements of Bolton helped to make it number 26 highest ranked elementary school in the nation, according to US News in 2024? Arguably, its small size is highly influential in its incredible performance. They're the perfect settings for upholding our mission. How do we create learning communities for the greatest thinkers and most thoughtful people for the world?
Thank you.
For taking me out. Or to relay any messages they might have.
I'm sorry. Yes. One sec, do we have something to have have a sign-in sheet, just so everybody can say, we have everybody's name spelled out? Kathy, I don't know if you have an extra piece of paper.
I have some.
We have some extra paper. I just realized we have to try to spell everybody's name if we were trying to record the minutes, so for people's.
She's got one.
We'll just pass around a sign-in sheet if you can write your name. Thank you, everybody, so much. John, take it away.
And then, John McKee, Westland, Oregon. Wife's family has been out here in this area for over 100 years. So we try to look at longevity. That's about as long as you can get. But what we don't have here is transparency. We were told that we could not get what the attendance numbers are for this year. Well, I went to our Department of Education, they gave me, and we are waiting 173 students for last year. But we don't even know how bad that really is because of how many open enrollment students we have. And so we're building schools for these open enrollment kids. No transparency. These kids that are coming in and using our local option dollars to dilute them for our community. So when we look at closing schools, well, we need to look at open. And everybody needs to go back, as long as it's there, it may be removed. In November 8th, 2022 meeting, questions asked like, well, are the schools in Wilsonville at capacity? Oh yeah, they're back to where they were before the pandemic. No, they're not. But over 100 students low. In fact, the biggest drop last year was from Boone's Ferry, over 55 students less than was in the last year. In fact, the biggest drops are in Boone's Ferry. If you want to go with flow analytics, we are down 2,000 students in this district from where we were when there was an estimate made in 2018 that we built schools. Part of the problem why there is no growth in Wilsonville is Frogpond is developing way slower than they thought. Started in 2017, the population growth in West Flint and in Wilsonville since the pandemic, well, no, since the 2020 census, less than 1%. And so you don't have to talk about birth rate, it's just simple. Houses aren't being built. The houses that are being built are too expensive. We have no growth. But we need to have growth in quality of education. And as many people have said tonight, that's not being looked at. That's not being considered. Then why do we even need a school district if that's not even a consideration? Then we have to look at what the Oregon Department of Revenue said about the Westland School District. Some of their procedures said right on the sheet, not, the school district is not lawful. They are doing not lawful activities. And the school board doesn't even want to discuss it, which more non-transparency. Frankly, we have to find out if we did remove all the transfer students away, what kind of district do we have? And you will find out, maybe close schools in Wilsonville, as long as the three here, it starts a whole domino effect. And one of the domino effects that we do have is if Bolton and Stafford are closed, the new Eighth Creek Middle School will have fewer than 300 students. But if we don't open Frog Pond, Meridian Creek will have less than 200 students. So which middle school do we close 2 years from now? None of this is being discussed. We don't matter. And as long as this transparency keeps on going, and as I said, that this last 40 paragraphs, is everybody should look at the November 8th, 2022. And there was enough lack of transparency at that meeting. Different decisions possibly would have been made. Wouldn't be here we are today. And if you do go back to the 2018 report from Flow Analytics, Cedar Oak is exceeding enrollments. And yet they still want to close a school that the community was told the number was fine in 2018. But now it's bad. And it's really all because they want to open Frog Pond. And the reality is, because it would look bad to the school board that they voted for a school that they knew they had no students for. And that's what the school board deserves. They should have never built it. They should have saved our money. And one school board member said, I would want to look out for the public. And because they'll have concerns on it, and they were given incorrect information to get a yes vote out of it. That's irresponsible. And something needs to be done about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You time yourself, John, it was just 5 minutes.
Well, from being a runner, I know what I can do in my home.
Anybody online? I see one person online, but
We got about 20 on YouTube that have been coming and going.
and
Put
on
it out
YouTube, you
there.
can't give.
And I've told them to come on WebEx, but no one's taken me up on that, so.
Would you like to go next? Next speaker? Welcome. Just
Okay.
state your name and city residence, and you have
My name is Paige Schuler. I'm a Westland resident. I'd first like to thank the city of Westland for hosting this listening session and the mayor and members of the council for their presence and consideration in delivering our messages to the board. In my profession as a nonprofit administrator, I understand the importance of budgets, the level of acuity it requires to manage them and account for every cent. I also hail from a nonprofit that is people-centered, and our mission is to serve humans. Balancing both sides of this coin is crucial to its survival. I'd now like to change focus on how I became a Westland resident and provide some very personal insight as to why I'm standing here today. In 2017, my daughter was attending Fairview Elementary School and I was living in her Beaver. I was pregnant and I had just become a stay-at-home mom. I knew that we couldn't sustain the lifestyle of living in a tiny home with a newborn on the way. So my main objective was to find a place to live that was in a good school district. My research led me to the Westland Wilsonville district, as it was touted as the best in Oregon. I moved to Westland just before my baby was born, and since then, my world has been centered around their place of education, which has been Bolton Primary. My eldest daughter, Grace, is a graduate of Bolton Primary, and the baby that I was pregnant with, Maya, is now a first grader in Miss Nelson's class. Over the past few years, our family has gone through some challenges. such as COVID, homeschooling, and a divorce. My children have relearned how to live life in two separate households. But the one thing that has remained a true constant has been that school. Their teachers, counselors, friends, and the building itself represent something invaluable to us. And to me as a mom, it's worth fighting for. The budget and the dollars gained in association with closing schools hold very little value to me in comparison to the detrimental impact this would have on my little family, which I've worked so hard to protect and to provide a normal, healthy, and happy life. Thank you all.
for sharing your story and comments. Would you like to go next?
I'm happy to talk next.
Yeah, thank you, sounds
I
great.
didn't prepare anything formal, so. From the heart.
That's fine, just state your name and city residence for our minutes, please.
Yep, my name is Heather Weber and I live in Stafford. I have a kindergartner that attends Stafford Primary. And next year he'll be a first grader and I'll have a first grader and kindergartner next year, hopefully at Stafford Primary. I am a business owner here in the community and I recently just moved my family here. After we toured 9 schools, we chose Stafford. And we chose public school over private school after a lot of thought. And it wasn't about the cost of the school, it was really about the statistics, the feel, the vibe, and meeting Melissa Hall. We were able to get a tour at any of the Westland Wilsonville schools, but we happen to know, I'm a dentist and one of my patients is a child psychologist who happens to place kids in the best school setting for them based on their needs. And she said, I know you and you need to go check out Stafford Primary. The Westland Wilsonville schools are undeniably amazing. I know you'd fit in there well, but all the schools you're looking at, you really don't hold a candle. Just go. And I said, I can't get a tour there. I've tried 3 times. She said, I know Melissa Hall. I will get you a tour there. My husband and I went, and the school definitely didn't have some of the ambience of the private schools we went to with the nicely trimmed landscape out in the winter when we looked. But it was the most perfect place to us for so many reasons. The sense of community was really obvious. The pride in the school, the size of the school, and it just really felt like home. So we uprooted and moved, and so that we were in district, and we loved our neighborhood. We moved this July, and I feel like we live in a snow globe. This is such a sweet, wonderful place to live. We've heard from other families and members here about the sense of community in Westland, about the sense of community in schools. We've heard a lot of really great statistics about why would we keep a small school. And it's, I think we all know kids are going to thrive in a small school much better than a large setting or a mega school. We also learned about the transparency or lack of transparency that we've been given about why we're facing this matter right now. And a really great personal story, which we all can attest to, the connection and the people that we meet that keep us here and want us to help and grow and work together. Because like someone said, people move here for the schools. But what we haven't talked about yet is the budget. And when I went to that first meeting at Stafford, when they talked about, the birth rates have declined and it's affecting school settings. And, COVID has affected us negatively because our school numbers are going down. The reality is the birth rates decline if you count out where the kindergartners are. That birth rate decline hasn't hit kindergartners yet. So we can't say that the birth rate change has affected us yet. The other thing is with
COVID and people not coming back, people didn't leave Westland or Wilsonville. The families are still here. In fact, during the height of all the real estate matters that just happened with an influx of people from California, Arizona, we moved into, and people whose kids left the school district, moved out. In came all these people with young kids, and it's becoming unaffordable to live for most families. But the people who came with kids. Now they're coming probably with older kids. Maybe they're more affluent to be able to get a house once their kids are in middle school or high school. But the people are coming. People are moving here. This is a safe community. This is a wonderful place. And when people come, they're choosing to go to private schools. If we instead turned our focus onto why people are living here and not choosing public school, it would really change the dynamic of our enrollment in our schools. Each one of those heads of students equals a dollar number to the district. And we're here because of budget. We're not here because this is a great community. We all agree with that. We're not here because we want small schools. We all agree with that. We're here because we have a budget problem. And so do we start, as far as looking for the solution, do we go through the budget and pick where we can cut? Do we just close schools? That just delays the problem, right? If we're not managing our money. I think the solution is we need to look at who are our grant writers. Do we pass a levy? How do we get more kids to come in the school? When we had our first meeting, there was a family that came in from Arizona. He said, I couldn't get a touring either. My Uber driver picked us up from the airport and said, oh, you're going to choose Westland. That's the best school district. He goes, I hope so, because we couldn't tour the place. If we treated this like a business, someone had mentioned at that first meeting we had that they called on families who had switched to homeschooling and switched to private schools and have them come back. I remember at COVID when it affected my business, I reached out to patients too. But once patients had already left or found a new community or had a reason to change, I focused instead on driving in new people, not focused on who left, but figuring out solutions to how can we give people tours, how can we draw people in, because the numbers are here. And we know that by the number of homes sold in the last 3 years and the new prices that people paid for those numbers means that much more money is now coming into the district and for schools. So let's manage it appropriately. Let's not cut. Let's look at long-term solutions. Let's not make quick solutions. And let's work together at how we can keep what is good here, which is small schools, and how we can manage that budget and treat this like a business. Each family coming in is $1 money. So bring families into the schools. They're here. They're in our community. We just need them to walk through our doors. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Would you like to go next? Appreciate it all we've heard this far. Sure. And you don't have to speak if you don't want to.
Yes, people here from the school board.
We have a sign-in sheet going around, just to make sure people who haven't had a chance yet, we're just trying to capture people's names. There.
Easiest way to do the ball. I know, like, what do I do? We have a sign sheet.
Yeah, I think it's behind you. And if you were gonna speak, they're asking if they don't want.
Oh.
Anybody online, if you'd like to raise your hand? I can see there's a few people in our attendee list. Planning to go till around 7 o'clock, so we've got 15 more minutes. Could go a little bit longer if there's a big demand to speak. Right. Fine.
Yeah, you haven't
Oh,
spoken.
sure, go ahead. Just, if you like to, the folks have been coming right up here and speaking.
Yeah, I'm here on this, rather than that, can capture you, this is also online.
Great.
This is fine.
State your name and city residence.
Okay, David Baker, City of Westland. I've got 3 kiddos, former neighborhood association president. Wow, what a great turnout. First of all, thank you. And thank you to the council. There is a sharp contrast with how your group approaches citizen engagement and how you involve the community versus the school board. And I just want to say thank you. To provide a space where you can actually share and be part of a meaningful, constructive way to navigate this, I think it's great. It's nice that we have the space to do it. And I've got a lot to say on this topic, but I'll keep it short. You should know that I filed a grievance with the state, or going to file a state with the Oregon Ethics Commission because of the way that this has been handled. They're having meetings that should be open to the public, and they're conducting it in a way that's private. And in this state, we value transparency and we value accountability. So I filed that grievance.
The small schools.
Yes, multiple task force. They've had 3 meetings, I think maybe 4, there was one yesterday. Those should be open to the public. I've also asked for public records to understand, okay, what's being said behind closed doors. And you should see the fees that I'm now subjected to get access to records that all of us should be able to look at. I'm fighting that. So more to come, but I just gotta say, whether it's Offenlander or whether it's Closing Bolton or Cedar Oak or Willamette, it's an absolute shame what this district is doing. And you can't tell me that this district doesn't have enough money. We're one of the best well-funded school districts in the state. The issue is it's not being managed properly. So I'm glad the school board's here. Because it's time that you hold the superintendent accountable. For so many years, superintendent has been able to do whatever she wants. And the school board's just like, okay. Do you see that in the city of Westland? Do you see that with the city manager? Do you see the city manager conducting meetings like what happens? No, you don't. And that's what we need to return to. We have an opportunity coming up for an election to get school board members that are going to hold the superintendent accountable. We have an opportunity to say no to a bond. Now, I don't want to say no to a bond. I think most of this community have said yes to bonds because we trust that the district is going to use that money to help support our kids, our communities. But the way that they're conducting themselves by holding meetings private and then having these oh yeah, we're having all this engagement, these town halls, all these meetings. Anybody participating in that? It's all bots, it's all photo. Because they know exactly what they want to do. They're just checking the box, citizen engagement. And it's time to change how that is happening here. They did in the last one. Oh, the what's going on. We need to do a whole new middle school. We need to have this great new 3rd high school. We heard all of those things. Now enrollment's dropping. But if you actually dive into the numbers, and someone here has, and you look at it, it's like, what is going on? You know, if the district was smart, they'd be thinking, why are we losing students? And it's not COVID. That's an excuse. Pandemic was 5 years ago. Why do parents say, you know what? I don't want to enroll my kids unless they're in school. Be better to go to Chester. Better go to OES. We better go to Westside Christian. Better go to Rice. Why? We don't ask these questions. So yeah, you can cut your way to prosperity. Never. We need to be thinking about how do we make this school district attractive and rebuild. That'll come with a new superintendent. That'll come with the school board. It's got the appetite to actually hold the superintendent accountable. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else? Online, raise your hand. I don't see anybody raising their hand online. another minute for folks that, who hasn't spoken yet to speak on the topic and before we can close out.
Nobody else on Bakers? Well, I just wanted to say, on behalf of council, that I really appreciate everyone, and I've been attending, some of the open houses just so I can hear, what the community's thinking, about this. I myself am a product of Westland Schools. I went to Stafford when it was a primary, in Bolton when it was a middle school, and I graduated from Westland High School in 1984. And my mom taught at Westland High School in the 60s before I was born. And but my teachers were her students, so I know about the importance of community. And I worked with the district myself and finished out working at the high school in special needs as an instructional assistant. And a lot of students there were my classmates' children, and my kids were also there. So I get what you're all saying, I really do. And everything I'm hearing is what we need to keep in mind when we're considering this. So I know that, speaking for myself, we want to work with the school district and make this, find a solution that works. For, you brought up the issue of Oppenlander, for that issue, but also this larger issue of, you know, how do we get families, how do we get affordability so we can get more young families in? But that's why we're all here today, is so we can hear what you are all thinking and hoping for. So I really appreciate all of you. Sometimes it's hard to get up and speak, and I really appreciate that. And so thank you all for being here.
For people who are here from the city, are you all from Westland, or have you lived outside of Westland? And I ask because I think some of us who lived outside of Westland know, well, if you've grown up here, you may not realize how special it really is.
Actually, I did the same search that I'm hearing several of you. And we were living in Oregon City, but hoping to move back onto our family property. But while I was waiting, I looked at OES and Cal Gable, and I did all of that and went to Stafford. For the same reasons that you were saying.
I moved up here when I had a 2-year-old, and we lived in Beaver Creek, and I had 2 more children. The oldest went to Karis Elementary, and for all of the school activities, we had to drive him somewhere. They didn't have after school at Karis, we would have to drive him to Canby. And that's when we decided that we needed to move, and we selected Westland. So all 3 of my kids went to Cedar Oak. The oldest started as a 4th grader, and he was pretty far behind from what he had at Karis. So when he got caught up, I go and Westland and really graduated.
Yeah, it's really special. And so I'm from Louisiana, and we lived in Texas for a long time with our kids. And lived in Katy, Texas, which has a massive school district. They have, every single elementary school has about 1,100 students. And they have about 10 of those. And they were fantastic on the test boards, but they were run like the military, and they didn't have that personal feel. Super intense, and, you know, and high anxiety across the board, all the way to 12th grade. We're like, this is not serving us. We lived here, Cedar Oak knocked our socks off. We've never felt a community like Cedar Oak before, ever. We knew it was unusual. We moved to Louisiana, back home, and over there, what happened is people stopped trusting the school board. And they stopped voting for bonds. And the public started, I'm a product of a public school, high school. All of my classmates now send their kids to private schools that have stayed in Louisiana because they don't trust the school board, and they don't trust the managing of the money. At least that's what they say. And so they send their kids to private schools, and the people who cannot afford private school are sending their kids to public schools, and those public schools have fallen into disrepair and are now on the chopping block for being shut down or moved to a charter system. And they're not serving the public. And it's so special to have a public school system that serves the public, but also makes it really personal. Because in Texas, we had strong public schools, but they were massive. They didn't have that personal touch. So I think we're really special here that we've got the best of both worlds. We've got public school support and a personal touch and kids who thrive. And we're at a crossroads. The minute we start doubting what we have, people will leave and they will not come back. And it will be this will be the beginning of the end. I hate to say that, but I've seen it, and we don't want to risk that. We've all anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Any closing comments from the council before we close out? Councilor Bragg?
Just real quick, I do want to say, in 1999, when I moved to West Lynn, we were looking at properties, and all of the properties we were looking at were in the Cedar Oak School District. And so we went to the school and asked for a tour, and they rolled out the red carpet for us in 1999. We got to tour the whole school, and my son was going to do the last week of school of third grade, which gave him an opportunity to meet some of his peers. And he got to visit all three of the third grade classes, and he got to select the one that he wanted to go to for a week. So,
Councilor Groner, closing
Yeah,
comments?
unlike my colleagues, I've just been in the area for about 4 years. And, but I've lived in many parts of the country, grew up in Pittsburgh, worked in upstate New York, North Carolina, and California. And yes, this place has one of the best senses of community involvement that I've ever been to. So thank you all.
Response to any closing remarks? Commissioner Beatty?
I myself am the product of Sunset and then Rosemont and then Riverdale. Went on a little bit different path there at the end. And anything good you can say about my education, if you think I have an intelligence level higher or whatnot, that really originates from things that happened at Sunset. That was a tremendously special place when I went to it. And interestingly enough, when this issue started coming up a couple of months ago, I accidentally spilled a folder with all of my old test scores, letters from Principal Balzer, if anyone remembers him, all sorts of things like that. And it was so interesting to see just how much they cared on an individual level about us. It was really, really something special. So I can't speak to that right now. I don't have kids, but I would hope that either that's going on or get back to it.
Thank you. Well, I also am a product of Westland Schools. I graduated in 2018 from Westland High School, went to Willamette, and then Main Creek Middle School, and certainly know the value of our elementary schools. And so, yeah, I'm grateful that everybody came tonight. We had a great turnout for this event. I'm also grateful to our partners at the school district for coming and listening in the back as well. So you were heard by both government entities. And we will take comments heard tonight and draft up a letter from the city council just expressing what we heard and some of the common themes for inclusion in their process. I also know that they have the small schools task force website that you can submit a comment on to directly to the school district if you're wondering how to do that. But I'm sure everybody here already knows how to do it. So thank you for coming, and we will adjourn this meeting and
Can I ask one last
see you in
question?
the near future. Would you like to ask it now?
I was just going to ask if the people from the school district are representing the school district or they're here just because of their personal interest.
I think they are, Doug, would you like to answer that? I think they're here on behalf of the school district. They're all school district staff and school board members who are been in a lot of the different small schools engagement meetings.
School board has 2 blocks from here.
Very good. So you heard both sides of the story. Thank you.
We're adjourned, everybody. Thank you for coming. Sharing your perspective.